Content warnings. Teeth. Feelings of insanity or losing your grip on reality. Blood. Mentions of mental institutions. Existential dread. Please listen at your own discretion. The Usher Foundation, Episode 6. Open Wide.
Right, is this thing... Okay. I hate this. Wouldn't it be easier to type up these statements instead of exhausting our vocal cords reading them aloud to an empty room? How is it even remotely efficient to make researchers scrub through 20 minutes of audio for information? And not even good audio. Like, why would Mita buy a frickin' 50-year-old tape recorder? I just... Mita, if you're listening, I hate you for making us record all these. As reparations, you owe me more of those Earl Grey cookies you brought to the office yesterday. Those were good. Damn good. Also, I want all of your very cool earrings. Anyways, focus, Mari. The sooner you get through this asinine task, the sooner you can get back to doing actual work. Statement of Clara Maldonado, age 29 at time of statement. Statement number 03072906. Summary of statement. Dental hygienist struggling with visions? I don't know. Ugh. Original statement taken March 7th, 2006, recorded by Mari Delatour, archival assistant at the Usher Foundation of Paranormal Research, Washington, D.C. Statement begins. It's a terrifying feeling, realizing you don't trust your own mind. I thought I knew up from down, thought I could tell the sky from the ground, a molar from a canine tooth. But I'm not so sure of anything anymore. I think I'm sitting here giving you this statement, but maybe I'm actually sitting in a psych ward, staring at a wall and babbling utter gibberish. I know, I should be talking to a therapist or a close friend, but you're the only people I want to hear from right now. And if you can't explain the things I've been experiencing, well then... there's no point to any of this, is there? So, not sure how much you need to know, but I'll include as much context as I can, as much as is reasonably helpful. I work as a dental hygienist. When I tell people that, their reactions usually range from sounds of disgust to telling me how they could never spend all day in someone else's mouth. I mean, it's not like this was my dream job either. I always thought I would be an author, but I settled for what I thought was a more stable, practical career. You make decent money in healthcare, especially if you go to school for it. I settled on dentistry, mainly due to the thousands of open roles as droves of older doctors retire from the industry. It was easy enough to shrug off the looks of confusion this choice earned me from my parents and friends. And yeah, I go through the motions a bit, but who doesn't? I don't know anyone who's over the moon about their job. The majority of us just work to earn a living and do what we actually enjoy in our free time. That's what my life has been ever since graduating from college several years ago. By day, I'm a tooth savior for the people of Santa Fe, New Mexico. I floss, polish, and scrape until their tissue and enamel are all shiny and clean. Patients thank me, and I tell them it's my pleasure, that my only passion is getting them back to a happy, healthy smile. You know, the sort of white lies you tell people at work to make social interactions less painful, like the gel you give teething babies to soothe their achy gums. And my nights are spent writing furiously in post-it notes and flooding the notes app on my computer, working on ideas I have for a novel. And that's just the trouble. All I have are these great ideas swirling around in my head. But as soon as I put pen to paper, it's like I have no idea how to organize them, how to connect one thought to the next, how to flush out all of these complex characters and plot lines I've dreamt up. I keep hoping that one day I'll just be imbued with the ability to write, that the muses themselves will inhabit my body and give me the vision, the clarity, the drive I need to put everything together. Sure, this cuts into my sleep time occasionally, but the way I see it, if I didn't have an outlet for all the creativity welling up inside of me, it might seep out in other ways. I always thought it was better to be low on energy than to let my mind dull with the monotony of each day. facing an endless line of people whining about their pain and their problems. This had worked out mostly fine for me. That is, up until a few months ago when things started to get a bit out of sorts. That's the best way I can describe it. Things around me began to fall out of place. It started small, like losing a pair of forceps or a periodontal file when I was sure I had set them next to me on the counter. Or there was this one time where I took a break to eat and I found a surgical drill head in my lunchbox, with no idea how it had gotten there. That sort of stuff. And then came the more concerning bit. I started to get these holes in my memory, pockets of time that seemed to go missing. I would begin my day like normal, and suddenly, as if hurled into the future like a skipping CD, I would find myself working on a patient, tools in their mouth with no memory of calling them back for their appointment. Sometimes I would lose hours, and it would be noon or 3 p.m. already, and I couldn't recall, for the life of me, what had happened with the rest of my day. This temporary amnesia meant I had to come up with subtle and crafty ways to prompt patients to remind me of their names so I could look up what type of cleaning I was supposed to be giving them. Other days I would come to, standing over the sink, staring at blood swirling around my equipment, mixing with the water in a twisting and sinister manner. As I let up the drain, I would watch it go down, 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 taking shapes and forms that were hard to follow but felt familiar. I chalked it up to sleep loss because, well, what else was there to think? It seemed a pretty clear case of my exhausted mind wreaking havoc on reality. Everyone I knew was worried about me, of course. I didn't tell them the full extent of what I was experiencing, but they could tell how abnormal I was acting. My friends thought I needed to come out more on work nights and weekends to socialize. My family thought I needed religion. Maybe they were all right. Maybe I needed something to ground me, to give me direction and sharpen my mind. Everything came to a head when I offered to stay late at the office one night. Our practice manager, Melissa Jurgen, asked me if I could squeeze in a patient after hours who couldn't afford to take off work during the day. She told me it had been a while since the patient's last cleaning, that they were well past due for an appointment. Normally, what I like about my job is that I'm out by 5 o'clock on the regular and am able to enjoy my evenings how I please. But of course, I ever so graciously agreed to see the patient, mainly because the idea of overtime pay was appealing, and I hadn't been making any progress on my novel anyways. So I was sitting there at the front desk, watching the streetlights blink on outside when the patient slipped in through the main doors. She had a slight build, with pale skin and light hair, and a rather unremarkable face. I honestly can't describe her in any more detail than that. Despite everything that happened, there was nothing distinctive enough about her appearance to remember. She said her name was Kari Nordman or something? Something Scandinavian, I think. I know it's a blatant violation of health information privacy to tell you all this, but I need you to know that I'm not making this up. This was a real person, a real patient. I had never seen Kari before, but it's not like that's unusual in such a big city. We get new patients all the time, many of whom are returning to the dental office for the first time in years due to a lack of money or interest in taking care of their teeth. What I do remember is that she was extremely reluctant to show me the inside of her mouth. She seemed loath to open it at all, covering it with her hand when she spoke and communicating in short, clipped sentences. She insisted it was horrible, grotesque, that her mouth wasn't like normal people's. I assured her it was okay, that nothing could faze me anymore. That's what I thought, at least, having seen the sort of gross and messed up things I do. Rotten, fetid teeth hanging on by just a thread, gaping abscesses, gnarly, foul odors caused by infection and decay. You really have no idea what's going on inside people's mouths until you take a deeper look. seemed to relax her a bit, and she gave me a close-lipped, tight smile in response. I had the strangest feeling while leading her back to my room, a disorienting type of feeling, like the hallways were too long and like there were too many doors. At the time, I dismissed it out of hand, thinking it was just a late hour playing tricks on my head, and like I mentioned, I hadn't been getting much sleep. When we finally reached my room, Kari sat down, and before I had the time to reach for my tools, she opened her mouth with a surprising abruptness that caught me off guard, and I had to blink a couple of times to be sure of what I was seeing, which was nothing. And I mean that in the most literal sense. Between her lips was the absence of anything, a pitch-black expanse that can only exist outside of time and space. You know how your mind sometimes tries to fill in the blanks when you see something that doesn't make sense? Well, mine gave up, and my eyes refused to see anything at all in that darkness, except the faint swirling of colors, pricking at my vision almost like static. It looked like the edge of the universe, just a spinning, churning mass of black. I tried to look away, but it was like the yawning void was pulling me in. It was paralyzing, nauseating. My head protested with a sharp ache, and I felt like I was going to hurl. Her mouth kept getting wider, splitting at the sides and leaving the corners all bloody and raw. For a moment, I was filled with a slow, creeping terror at the thought that the nothingness might keep encroaching until it split her in two and come for me next. After what seemed like an eternity, I realized that her mouth was no longer pulling itself apart, and she was talking to me, asking if I thought her teeth would be salvageable with a good cleaning. I stumbled back, blinking hard. I apologized and stuttered an excuse that I didn't get a good look the first time. When she opened her mouth again, everything was normal. I don't even think she had a single cavity. Just perfect pink gums and 32 blinding pearly white teeth. So I gave her a basic cleaning. She thanked me, and I sent her on her way. When I got home, I didn't even bother to open up my laptop and work in my novel. I threw myself into my bed in a desperate attempt to give my mind some rest, as though it would block the insanity from my head and factory reset my brain. If only it were that easy. Over the next few weeks, I experienced more gaps in my memory. Every time I came back to myself and to consciousness, there would be a loud buzzing in my ears. At work, I would be staring at the same spiral, fractal patterns made by someone swirling blood in the sink. Home was no better. After a writing session where I was sure I had made good progress, I would look at my computer screen and just see hundreds of pages of some sort of symbol repeating itself over and over again. One night, I found myself at the office, with no knowledge of what time it was or why I was still there. I called out to see if anyone was there. When no one answered, I pulled out my phone to check the time, but the only thing on my screen was that maddening, horrible mess of spiraling static, giving my eyes sharp stabs of pain. I felt the panic rising in my throat as my heart threatened to break my ribs with this incessant beating. I walked toward what I thought was the front of the office to leave, but when I turned the corner past a long hallway of operatory rooms, I was met with another long corridor. And it wasn't possible. I know it's not possible. The office is not that big. Yet, every time I walked to the end of that hall, another took its place. My walking broke into a run as the terror took hold, and the next thing I knew, it was morning, and I was at home, sitting in bed, still in my scrubs from the day before. And now, I've started seeing someone. It's a figure, looming at the edges of my vision, at the ends of halls, in the corner of rooms. Sometimes in passing, I can't tell if it's a shadow or a person. But I know I know it's laughing at me. I amuse it. Ironically, this thing seems so much more real than anything else I've been seeing, even though it also gives me the same horrible feeling as all those fractals. I know it sounds crazy, but lately I've been seeking out this figure more and more, because I can't help but feel like it's at the center of everything, of my mind, of my insanity. It's funny, I think humanity invented things like phantoms and demons to distract us from a more horrifying alternative. We explain things away as paranormal entities and encounters instead of admitting to ourselves that we are well and truly fucking losing it. No monster lurking in the dark is as scary as the fact that none of us will ever know how sane we really are. And that's why I'm here, why I'm asking you, begging you to tell me there's some supernatural culprit at the center of all this. I need an explanation that isn't a brain tumor, or Alzheimer's, or my mind descending into a slow, torturous madness. Because I've seen TV shows and horror movies, I know it's only a matter of time before I start drawing clocks with all the numbers on one side, before I black out for longer periods of time and come to doing God knows what. I'm so scared. I can't explain it, but I feel like I don't have much time left before my mind goes, before everything comes apart. Today, I got the closest look I've ever gotten of that shadowy figure. It was inside your building, actually. I was sitting in the waiting room, mentally preparing to make this statement, when I saw him. It looked like a man, except not quite right, somehow. He was standing in the corner of the room, behind some chairs where the dim glow of your entryway light doesn't quite reach. He was tall, angular in a way that seemed wrong, almost threatening, with long, sharp fingers and a crude, blobbish body that seemed to blur the more I focused on it. His face was mostly obscured by darkness, but at the edges I saw what looked to be soft, dirty blonde curls brushing at his temples and cheeks. And when he opened his mouth in a slightly parted smile, I saw it again, that nauseating, gut-churning, endless, swirling pattern. It's the same pattern I see now, on this paper, on my pen, spreading and sprawling across the backs of my hands, the table. I even see it on the backs of my eyelids when I close my eyes, claiming everything, until there's nothing left. Well, that was disturbing. No idea why Amita wanted to record it. At any rate, I did some follow-up on this case, and surprise, surprise, Clara is actually alive. Who would have guessed? A relief, although I wouldn't exactly call her current existence life. According to Melissa Juergen, Clara stopped showing up for work about a week after giving this statement. After 2 weeks of absence, Clara's coworkers and family called the police for a wellness check to her apartment. Kaylee was able to get some police reports from the scene. Oh, well that's... God damn. Christ, Mita, why do you make us... According to police reports, Clara was found in her bathroom. She apparently had not left it for weeks. She was hunched over her bathroom sink with a pile of stolen dental tools. For whatever, poor researchers listening to this, I'll spare you the more grisly details, but she was found pulling out her own teeth and arranging them in the sink. The photos here show that she was arranging them in a spiral shape. Police report states that she was, quote, crying and laughing uncontrollably. Clara was hospitalized at a mental institution after the police determined she was a danger to herself and possibly others. She remains there to this day. You seriously owe me one, Amita. And tape.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast written by Jonathan Sims and produced by Alexander J. Newall and distributed by Rusty Quill. Story, characters, and ideas written about in this fan-made project belong to Rusty Quill. The Usher Foundation is a fan-made project co-written by Rashmi Phillips and Mari and edited by Mari, Kaylee F, Amber, and Emma. All audio used in this project was Creative Commons Use Audio. Thank you for listening.